Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of What's New in Data. I'm super excited about our guests today, someone who I've been following for a long time and always been in communication with. And I'm sure you've seen his tweets go around your feed every now and then, and some great YouTube videos as well. We have Alex Noonan, developer advocate at Dagster. Alex, how are you doing today?
John, it's great to be here. Big fan of the show. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Happy to be here.
Yeah, likewise. This is going to be super fun. Alex, first, it would be great to just hear you explain your story and how you ended up in data.
Yeah, so my job history is a little bit Forrest Gumpish, where I hopped from different things and ended up in an interesting place. But so out of high school, I joined the Marines. I was an aircraft mechanic for 5 years. At some point in there, The Big Short came out, and I remember being like super fascinated with the ability that like people could forecast the future, so to speak. And I think what was interesting with that is you can use data to like really make decisions and make a lot of money. So I thought I would try to be like a Wall Street person. So I ended up going to undergrad when I got out of the military for finance. I graduated in 2020, which is a tough job market. Then I got a role as like a data analyst, just hacking and slashing SQL databases all day, Excel sheets for the works. And then I did a job after that. I was like a data engineer building like cloud resources using data warehouses, ETL, all that good stuff. And then after that, I was in a pure marketing role at an agency for 2 years. And that aligned with me because I love making content, and it was good to learn and to apply your data skills in the domain. So that was my experience doing that. And then I was a Dagster user while I was at that agency as the one data guy. And then when I saw this developer advocate role opened up, I jumped on it, and here I am at Dagster.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's one of the great things about working in data. You have so many smart people who come from different backgrounds, just really good at whatever their domain was. And we all sort of align on this idea of using data to make people more productive, work smarter, be more predictive. And we see that in movies now with like The Big Short and Moneyball and some of the ways that data has seeped into pop culture. And I think that's just what's so fun about it. Whereas I think there's certain other categories of tech that are more niche for people who only have computer science backgrounds. But data is just awesome because you have all these great smart people coming from different areas. What are some of the main channels that got you into the data and working with people in the data space?
Yeah, I think I don't remember what the exact time of it was, but I was on finance Twitter for years. And I think I was just like tweeting out about like a Power BI problem or a SQL Server issue, something I was running into. And I don't know, someone like replied. And then as you do, you work the reply guy game and you make some mutuals there. And then you discover like more people in the network graph. And then I like found my way into data Twitter. And it's been one of my favorite communities because everybody's so like open to share and is always like publishing like a project GitHub repo or like a Substack. And it's been like super interesting to learn from that community. And it was a real damn shame when Twitter imploded and we lost that community because everybody like splintered. Of course, everybody's on LinkedIn, but not everybody posts on LinkedIn. You had a lot of folks on Threads, but Threads was lame. And like Blue Sky up until like fairly recently, I don't know, it was just there, but it was interesting to see like the network effects through starter packs. And now it feels data Twitter is reconstituted on Blue Sky. But what are your thoughts on that?
First, I want to ask you, yeah, a lot of very interesting stuff there. What do you mean by like data Twitter imploded? Is it just that people stopped posting there? What led to this?
When Elon took over, I don't know, the safety on the network has gotten like pretty bad, and catching a stray is like pretty high odds where you're like next to some tweet that you don't want to be next to. So like from a brand safety perspective and like people's personal beliefs, they left the platform, and it is pretty toxic if you like aren't in your niche group.
Oh, that's a good point. One of the things that I observe, because we interact on data Twitter as well, is just, yeah, since the Elon takeover, it just, I typically don't follow like politics on Twitter. I, I do just use Twitter to stay in touch with other folks in the data and engineering community. And my feed just completely, it used to be this rich organic source of, like you said, just really valuable technical content, things I could learn about from the market. And it suddenly became like this very open attempt to indoctrinate a specific political view. I'm not taking a side on politics by any means, but just the fact that every time I logged in and my feed was just all about politics instead of data, I was like, what happened? There's nothing I did here to provoke this from Twitter. I didn't follow any accounts or anything like that. I didn't even follow Elon. Yeah. It was really, but he was always on my feed. Like every time I popped open Twitter, it was like Elon commenting on the state of the economy or the country in general. So yeah, from that perspective, Twitter did fall apart. And I guess it's X now too, which confuses everybody because everyone's like, oh, follow me on Twitter. Wait, should I say Twitter or X? And I always say, I think if you say either one, people will know what you mean. Most likely if you say Twitter, I think saying, oh, follow me on X, it still doesn't really roll off the tongue.
I don't know. I'll never say X, even if there's a fire. Like, it's always going to be Twitter to me.
Yeah, same. I see people struggling with that for sure. It just sounds odd. Follow me on X. Okay, what is X? And then, yeah, then you learn about Elon Musk, who has done a lot of incredible stuff with SpaceX and Tesla, obviously. So not knocking that by any means, but certainly funny to see what happened to Twitter since he took over. And then you mentioned Blue Sky. So what's Blue Sky? Tell me about that.
It's like a Twitter clone, as far as I can tell. It feels the exact same. The curation controls are a lot better, I noticed. Like you can create custom lists of like specific people that you want to see posts from, and then you can like switch between those feeds to really like hone your experience so you don't get that fire hose of stuff you don't want to see. It also doesn't penalize outbound links, which I think is great for allowing like people to share, and especially in the technical domain where like you can't really summarize a data project or like a GitHub repo in 180 characters. So you need to allow that like native sharing of outbound links, and it encourages like creators, especially on a smaller scale, to like share and create, and they don't have to be like Twitter poster dunk champions to get their stuff discoverable.
Yeah, there's definitely a formula on Twitter, especially since the Elon takeover, where don't put outbound links. I think like low quality meme type content is definitely more popular. But yeah, if you post a link to GitHub or YouTube or something like that, you can just tell you get less impressions. So at least anecdotally from what I saw. And you're saying Blue Sky is more friendly to creators who post outbound links to like their GitHub repos or videos or whatnot.
Yeah, and I think it allows more. I don't know, one of the feeds like popular with friends. You can see stuff that like your mutuals are engaging in, and oftentimes you have the kind of like leaders in the community that are always on these networks that like find the interesting, cool projects, and like you're gravitated towards it that way. So it allows for more. It feels like the conversations are back, where I think that was something we lost the most when Twitter fell apart, was these organic discourses around if analytics engineers are dead and whatever the topic of the week is.
Yeah, and the one of the other things that's interesting about it is Martin Kleppman posted about this too. Martin Kleppman, the famous author of designing data intensive applications. And he was talking about how he worked on the decentralized platform, which is a really cool implementation. And it's not blockchain or any Web3 stuff. It's a distributed system using the AT protocol. So a lot of really rich tech goes into Blue Sky as well. And it seems like it's really just speaking to the creators who want to control their feeds in a way that's just very blatantly neutral, right? Just based on, like you said, what your mutuals are interested, based on what you actually want to follow, rather than what the platform has decided is buzzworthy or conversation worthy. So from that perspective, I think it's pretty exciting. So you also mentioned starter packs. What are those?
They're basically lists that people put out of, hey, you should follow these however many accounts, and there's like a follow all button at the top. And I'm in a few of these starter packs, so I've gotten a bunch of followers unfairly just by being in the list. But yeah, it's been a great way where it's really made the onboarding experience for new users like pretty efficient, because if they want to come in and get like a focused group of followers around data Twitter or people with good vibes, they can just go on there, smash that like button, and suddenly they are like integrated into the community.
Yeah, that part is pretty fun. And I did notice that now with Blue Sky, after following some of these data starter packs and distributed system starter packs, it does feel like old Twitter, right? My feed comes in and it's just all this really rich content again about things that I'm interested in. And I feel like now it's this really valuable just source of staying in the know with the latest and greatest technologies and what the smart people are in our industry are working on and advocating, and we can all align on best practices again. What's your perspective on LinkedIn? How does LinkedIn play into all this?
Well,
Be
LinkedIn,
careful. I'm a LinkedIn top voice.
yeah,
So I'm just kidding.
but seriously, yeah, LinkedIn is, it's like the distribution channel for like professional folks. And it runs into those challenges that Twitter has, where outbound links are punished. So you need to like be creative with your content to make it native on LinkedIn. And a lot of, if you're in the software dev tool space, a lot of your like economic buyers are there. So it's like foolish to neglect LinkedIn. We've seen a lot of success at Dagster with putting some of our newsletters on there through the newsletter feature, just for like medium long form content. And that's been helping our reach a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I would say LinkedIn is certainly a very professional oriented platform. I think it's specifically for those who are trying to go higher up in their organizational ladder. And you a lot more, if you post about management and business oriented advice, you get a lot more free engagement versus going hardcore technical. And even when you are doing technical, there's more focus on high level architecture,
Yeah.
rather than, okay, this is the exact code you need to write for how I'm using DuckDB as a offloaded cache or something along those lines. Yeah, it's really interesting as an operator in the data category to just understand the nuances of these social media platforms. And of course, there's Reddit too, right? Reddit is often overlooked. Do you spend much time there?
We actually do. The R data engineering subreddit, some of them there are sick of us, but it's pretty effective because like people treat Reddit as, I don't know, they append Reddit at the end of all their Google searches. So if you want what is a informed person's decision or informed person's opinion on a topic, you usually go to the subreddit to it for it. So we hang around the data engineering subreddit a fair amount, and it's it's funny when you run into competitors, developer advocate on Reddit trying to give helpful advice. It's like, hey, I'm here. I'm supposed to be giving the helpful advice. But it's a great way to establish social proof and get in front of the power users and the people that are like really passionate about their craft, because usually those are the people that post on Reddit.
Yeah, absolutely. Reddit also very, and it depends on what sub you're on. I think it's similar to Blue Sky and what Twitter used to be, where it was where developers hang out and trade best practices and like getting into the weeds of things and like comparing vendors. So yeah, it does totally make sense for data platform companies to try to establish a good relationship. Also be warned that if anything comes off as advertising, you're just going to get completely beaten up there by by the readers. That part can be tough. I do see all these kind of attempts to. I think the Reddit ads work well, honestly, because it's like they're pretty good at curating the ads. But yeah, you can see that it's a tight rope to walk on when you're going in as a data platform company and trying to talk about your product to Reddit, because I think it does skew towards more peer-to-peer information sharing rather than like vendor to consumer. So yeah, just another fun detail there.
Yeah, and Redditors, since they're anonymous, can be a lot more. They have a little bit of a bite to them if they don't like what you're saying. Not as bad as Hacker News folks. I think they're the most extreme. But yeah, like to your point, if you come on there with 100% sales pitch, like they're gonna roast you.
Yeah, and it's funny you bring up Hacker News. I think there's the famous Hacker News post from Dropbox CEO Drew Houston, where he introduces Dropbox to Hacker News, and this was back in the I want to say the late 2000s. And the first and most upvoted comment was, "Why do I need Dropbox? I can solve this with some Linux hack." And it's pretty funny to read now. I think, yeah, I believe the comment was, actually I can pull it up here. Drew Houston posted about the title was "My YC app Dropbox, quote unquote, throw away your USB drive." And one of the top comments was, "I have a few qualms with this app. For a Linux user, you can already build such a system yourself quite trivially by getting an FTP account, mounting it locally with curl FTP-FS, and then using SVN or CVS on the mounted file system. For Windows or Mac, this FTP account could be accessed through built-in software." See, we didn't even need Dropbox. This guy already had the solution. Anyways,
that as a Linux user, this is trivial is like such a good line. There's so much in there.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack on. Yeah, as a Linux user, this is trivial. Yeah. If only we were all Linux users.
Yeah, if only. Then it's like that meme where it's like all like the flying cars and stuff. If the world was Linux users.
Yeah, absolutely. There would be no SaaS if we were all Linux users. It just seems like a crazy idea, letting someone else run your machines for you. Yeah, but it is fun to talk about these social platforms. But Alex, I also want to. You have a really cool background. I want to hear more about Alex, like before he got into data. You serve this country, but you have some really interesting experiences that I never had because I was always in computer science. I would love to hear about that.
Yeah, so in the Marines, I worked on the F-35, which was at the time and still is, it was like the fancy pants new fighter jet. I think the government to date has spent like $1 trillion on it. But yeah, it was cool to see like inside what goes on in these like big government procurement projects. And it's nothing like crazy corrupt or anything. It's just wow, these bolts cost $20, huh? You can get them at Home Depot for one. But yeah, during my time there, I got to see like the jet go from like testing phase to where it was like deployable. And it was really interesting to see like the amount of work and effort that went into that. And I don't know, it's funny if you talk to any um, marine aircraft mechanic after they get out, like they cannot stand airplanes. I remember I talked to this one dude. He was like on the flight line. He was covered in grease, and he was like, "Once I get out, man, I'm gonna find the point on the map that's farthest away from any airport, and I'm gonna go there." And yeah, it's. I was like, I don't really want to work with all those chemicals all day. Data sounds cool. Let me, and I liked Excel, so that was my primer into doing data work. And I'm a gamer too, and I feel like being a gamer gravitates you towards data work because it's a lot of just min maxing, finding efficiencies, and reducing bottlenecks, all that fun stuff. And I've been a poster since like high school. Like, you know, on Facebook when it shows you like 10 years ago you posted this.
Uh,
I saw someone from like 2009 and it was in like my same like voice that I use today when I like post on a social. I was like, wow, I've really been at this for a while now.
that's what's so great about this industry and folks like yourself who are highly skilled and really talented. Certainly, if you can service a F-35 and understand some of its workings, you can probably build a data pipeline. The maybe equally high pressure.
Yeah.
I'm joking. The and even when you talk about, yeah, you've been posting for a long time, and yeah, that honestly does give you good intuition about how communities work
Mm-hmm.
online, right? And that's extremely valuable. And then because the same people, the same way they post about like their personal lives or the concert they went to last week, here's a blurry video of a concert I went to and a family gathering, what have you. People similarly just go online and post about the data pipelines they're working on, and either look for help or look for recognition, look for tips, look for best practices. So these online communities are always going to be really valuable here. Now, do you see AI and Gen AI disrupting any of this?
I don't know. You can go for the inflammatory take and be like, we're 6 months away from the end of the world. Or like you can be like, oh, AI is a dud. But I think it's like any new technology, it's going to reduce the drudgery and allow you to focus on more higher value work. And I think as the tools to make more like custom applications with AI become like easier to work with, we're going to see a lot more like interesting novel applications. And because right now I feel like we're constrained by like the chat interface for how most people interact with AI agents. And I don't know, there may be some software interface that we haven't thought of yet that works better for communicating with these AI agents. And who knows what that's going to be. But it feels like in my life, one of the biggest like technological leaps that like I've ever felt. But then you talk to like a family member or something that isn't involved or like tech forward, and they're like, you show them ChatGPT and have them like interact with it, and they're like, oh, cool, whatever. And it's, don't you see what we're working with here? So I imagine the adoption with AI is probably going to be how cloud was, where it happens in the background and folks that are really passionate about it move the tech forward, and then end users, if done correctly, probably won't even know that it's happening. We may just see a lot of these like human administrative processes that bog us down either disappear or become like pretty minor in our day-to-day lives. That's the hope anyway.
Yeah, definitely. Automation certainly isn't a new concept, and you can look at the way that radiologists automation to detect certain things in images, but it still goes to a radiologist. Or autopilot in an aircraft, you can say, yeah, autopilot can be better than the pilot, but at the same time, you still want people in the cockpit. And I think, yes, taking off some of the cognitive load from the human is always going to be valuable, but it's never really replaced anything, especially when these automated systems in the past have been more deterministic, whereas this generative AI is extremely probabilistic, right? So super valuable for sure, but always requires a human in the loop. And I always feel like this is going to make the human interactions almost more valuable, because you're going to see so much AI generated content out there now that people be aware that what's being fed to them and is heavily AI generated to seem credible. So they're going to seek out more of these like human interactions, more of these, okay, what's the expert saying on Blue Sky, and what is the consensus on Reddit from these like real people in the community. So it'll definitely be interesting.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like one area that AI is making it really difficult right now is recruiting, because the ability to create a tailored resume is like, the cost is basically down at zero. And if you put like a open job posting on LinkedIn, in like 24 hours, you'll get like 1,000 applicants. And it's like, how is it possible to like sift through these and find uh, candidates? And I think it's going to be interesting to see what are the tools that develop to parse out the AI slop, and so like the truth can come through.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, it is all making human interaction and human relationships more valuable than ever in some ways. For instance, what you mentioned, recruiting super hard now. Okay, the recruiters are going to look for referrals from a trusted source now, because they're getting 1,000 applicants and they're going to use their own AI software to filter and sift through that. I want to go back to data and some of the things going on in the industry there. A lot of people are talking about this so-called unified control plane, and I see a lot of this discourse on Blue Sky and Reddit and places like that amongst data engineers and software engineers who work on data. So tell me about that.
Yeah, so the unified control plane, right now as we're recording, it's data platform week. But for guys like us, every week is data platform week. And the unified control plane is, and like the Dagster approach is, we believe the orchestrator is the perfect spot in your data platform to bring everything in. So you can have that like unified view of visibility, command and control of your data assets and pipelines, and discoverability as well. And so like operationally as a data engineer, you can go into Dagster and have everything right there. Because like one of the frustrations I think for folks with the modern data stack tools is they're all built with the Unix philosophy of the perfect tool for the job that's like narrow in scope. But this leaves for kind of a disjointed experience when you have 10 perfect tools for the job that don't interface well with each other. And a lot of the features that we shipped in our latest release, 1.9 spooky, because it came out on the Halloween, are bring that vision of expanding what you can have in your asset graph. And like we launched integrations for business intelligence tools. You can now view and materialize assets with Tableau, Power BI, Sigma, and Looker, which is pretty cool because I don't know. I remember when I was a data analyst and Power BI woes were like the bane of my existence. And if like I could have known that, oh, the upstream DBT model that feeds into my Power BI report broke for like this error and I got a Slack alert, instead of finding out like from the CFO 10 minutes ago that, hey, this dashboard's all messed up and now like you got to fix it. Like that alone would have saved me I don't know, months of my life. And we have a few other features we released was Airlift, which is our way to peer and migrate Airflow projects. So now within Dagster, you can have an Airflow project and tasks visible within Dagster's asset graph. And like, I feel like this is a lot of problem for folks in like complex enterprises where they have multiple Airflow instances. And it's really tough to have that like view operationally of what's going on. So if you have that all in one place, that allows you to have that like single point, single pane of glass where you can see like all your data pipelines running, which I'm really excited about. And I know like whenever we show it to a community member or something, they're like, oh, great, this solves like an exact problem I'm working with right now. So that's exciting. And then we also have pipes, which is our way of passing context back and forth between external compute environments and like different programming languages. So, for example, one of our community members, Georg Heiler over at Magenta, he used pipes to implement all these different Spark runtimes. And depending on the job that was being done, they were able to reduce costs by, I think, like 40% by having specified EMR jobs or whatever that they passed context back and forth using this pipes protocol. And it was a way that they increased visibility into the workloads, reduce costs, and not messing with the integrations. So that like standardized integration approach is what is allowing Dagster to be that like unified view where you can see all your data assets in one place and operationally manage it to make your life as a data engineer easier so you're doing less reactive work and more high value proactive work.
Yeah, and I love how Daxter has so many roots in software engineering, just naming the feature pipes. I think of Unix pipes and how it, you know, passes outputs from commands to each other. So tell me more about that. So here you're talking about sharing context between different processes, right?
Yeah. So for example, if you had like modal is one of our integrations that we have pipes with. And you can pass context from a Dagster asset into the modal compute. So either like a partition or a previous upstream asset, something like that. And then with the standard protocol, any of the context you want emitted back up to Dagster as like asset metadata, it's all standardized. So you can switch that between different compute environments or like a machine learning external infrastructure. We have seen someone use pipes with R, which is an interesting use case
Oh wow.
because yeah, R users are they're quite prickly and they like their tools. And I think like the benefit of something like pipes is the tool that the engineer wants to use, you can incorporate it into your like visibility layer. And I think that addresses a lot of the problems you have when someone leaves an organization and it's, oh, there was like a load bearing Jupyter notebook over on their computer that only like they know how to use. It's if you use something like pipes, then you don't have to worry about that because you have visibility into everything involved in your data platform. So you reduce
Yes.
risk at that end.
The load bearing notebook that only one person knows about. Every organization probably has their version of that. And yeah, I do like how Dagster definitely gives you this nice layer of abstraction to map out and basically connect your data assets in a DAG,
Mhm.
directed acyclic graph, and totally makes sense. And one of the things that's also really cool is the business intelligence tool integration. So tell me a bit about how that works.
Yeah. So for Tableau, Power BI, Looker, and Sigma, I believe are the ones we currently support. You the workbooks or dashboards or reports will show up within the like Dagster UI as assets that are materialized through that view. And you can also within Dagster like you can schedule them to run at specific intervals and have them be dependencies and automations and jobs. So it makes it a lot easier to gain that visibility and kind of push a lot of the transformation logic where it belongs into your transformation layer as opposed to like within the BI tools. And similarly, it allows that metadata observability. Like if a workbook failed, you'll have a job detailing that it'll failed and why. And if you need to refresh a dashboard real quick, you can do it like within Dagster. So that makes it a lot easier for data teams to manage that whole pipeline. And then you have visibility from like ingestion, transformation down to the service layer. So you have everything all in one place.
Yeah, that's incredible. And it's especially because business intelligence tools, they're the business source of truth for the data, right? That's where you want your go-to-market teams and other operational teams sort of interacting with the data, but they can lack that sort of upstream asset context. So being able to map that out and from your upstream sources to the transformations in your data modeling jobs and things along those lines, and all the way to refreshing a specific view in your BI tool, great for data engineers to have that control.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. What's coming up next with Dagster?
So, like I said, we're continuing to push forward and expand the different tools and integrations that you can bring into your asset graph. And we want to make Dagster more intuitive. And with that involves, we're currently in the midst of revamping our docs to be more intuitive and like easier to read and understand. And also the developer experience. So we want to have more project scaffolds that make it easy for folks that are maybe like new to data engineering or like the Dagster abstractions to get started and get going with some of our like common use cases that we see most people run into, so they can just plug and play with their keys and then like iterate from there.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. You know, one of the other great things about this industry is all the in-person events and networking that can happen. Are you going to be at any of the upcoming industry conferences?
Yeah, so Dagster will be at reInvent in Vegas, and we'll be posting about it on all our channels leading up to it. So make sure you follow us there. And I'll be there. So if you want to meet me, I'll be at the booth and we can chat about Dagster and data engineering. I'd love it.
I'll be there to catch up with you specifically about F-35s and all that cool stuff, because we talk mostly about data on this podcast and the data communities, and that's just one of the things I love about this industry. Again, I'll say again, it just has this extremely eclectic mix of very smart, talented people like yourself who bring their unique backgrounds with them. And we all agree and align on this idea that we can use data to make people's lives better and do business better and overall operate more efficiently. Alex, it was great having you on this episode today. Where can people follow along with you?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn as Alexander Noonan. I'm on Twitter as Alex Noonan6. I'm on Blue Sky at, I think it's like alexnoonan.bluesky.social. And if you search Alex Noonan, I'll probably show up.
Excellent. We'll have those links down in the show notes as well for those who want to keep following Alex. I totally recommend it. He's always posting some great, insightful, actionable, useful stuff. And also his YouTube videos. I'm a big fan of those as well for people who want some higher level intros into data engineering. Alex, thank you again for joining us today on this episode of What's New in Data. And thank you to the listeners for tuning in.
Thanks, John. It was great to be here.